Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure having a wonderful discussion again on Trump's election. Most people in Kenya are having different views. Today I've got wonderful panelists. I've got Professor Mong'are from Kenya, and I also have Professor Ndiangui from Florida. So welcome, gentlemen, to this particular discussion, and today we're basically discussing about Mr. Trump. So Professor Mong'are, you are in Kenya right now, and it's a couple of weeks since the American election. What are Kenyans perceiving about Trump's election from your own perspective and from what you are hearing from the ground? Professor Mong'are?
Thank you very much. There are two reactions to Trump's re-election. It is a re-election. Now, there are those who are very happy about it because they were very disappointed with Biden. And since Harris was an extension of Biden, therefore Trump's victory was welcome in those circles, the feeling that the negative Biden policies will not be continued in the name of Kamala Harris. So there is that very big reaction. And we noticed when the US ambassador, Ms Whitman, tendered her resignation, there was some kind of celebration because she was closely identified with President Ruto, and those who have grievances against President Ruto then thought that she was responsible for some of those things. So there is that side of it. The other side is a little bit confused, not knowing exactly what to do, since you have a new president who has expressed himself in terms that are not very flattering to Africans. And at the same time, he gives the impression of being a no-nonsense and some kind of person who takes revenge very seriously, if it has to be. So the assessment is how the Kenya government is likely to relate to the new president, Trump, given its previous relations with President Biden, which has not gone very well in some circles in Kenya. And at least it did not seem to go very well with Trump on that side. So the question is, how do the Kenyan officialdoms respond to the reality of a Trump presidency? And he is rumored to have said there are some things he doesn't want to hear. And if he doesn't want to hear them, then he might be a little rough on some people.
Thank you so much, Professor Mong'are. So, Professor Ndiangui, from your perspective, what do you think the African race or Kenyans, not only the ones who are living here, but back in Kenya, you are a community leader, you always get information from Kenya every day pertaining the American election or pertaining the American politics. So what is your own perspective and what you hear people from back home are talking about Trump's victory?
Can you repeat the whole question? I missed something. Can you repeat?
Oh, you missed something. I'm saying, from your own perspective, what does Trump election means, not only to the Kenyans living here, but back home? Every day you receive information, or you've got friends back home who at least you've been talking to, and they've been giving you their views pertaining Trump's victory.
Right.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yes, thank you so much. First of all, it's always nice to have a forum with Professor Mong'are, who is a historian and has a better way of analysis, these kind of things, than most of us. But to answer your question, I think the first reaction was shock. Because Trump had campaigned on some strange things like He'll do anything for women, whether they like it or not. He's gonna deport 11 million people. He's gonna do. There was so much. That was so much negativity. Don't forget that he had just been, he's been going through all these court cases, and he has been, looked as a felon for 34 cases. So this is somebody who many of us thought that even had no chance of studying for. If you are a felon, by the way, you cannot even vote. You don't get even a job. Now the felon with the 4 counts has gotten the biggest job in the world. What message are we saying? And remember, the felons are not even voting, but the biggest felon has gotten the big job. So it was very traumatic. But that is the nature of democracy in Kenya. Democracy has a power of producing things you like and things that can traumatize you. So what is happening now within the last, let's say, 2 weeks, is we are trying to come to terms and say, we're going to find a way of living with this man. This is who he is. And as Professor Macharia mentioned, there are some things that people had issues with Biden. Well, the people at home or the diasporians. There were things we felt that Biden has been an instrument of pushing some bad things going on in the Ruto government. And so that change was necessary. Whether Trump was the change we needed, I don't know, but sometimes we just want the person who is representing change. So Trump represented change to stop things like when Trudeau just went there and sat in Biden's office and all those kind of things. There's a lot of things that people have been mad against Biden's government. Now, so as Professor Macharia mentioned, this is very confusing. There's 2 viewpoints. This man, if he rules the same way he campaigned, saying that, for example, he'd rather the generals that were of Hitler, then what are we getting into? Have we reversed back to before the Second World War? Are we expecting another serious issue? Or is he going to sober up and realize leadership and campaigns are different? It's still very early. But there are a number of signs, and probably we'll address those a little bit later, that are telling us we better tighten our belts. Maybe some little good, but right now, I'm still on the pessimistic side. I've not seen the positive side. And most of the people I talk to are saying, let us wait and see. Maybe God will touch this man. Maybe he will change. The final thing I want to say in this part is, I'm becoming even more pessimistic. I might be optimistic by seeing the cabinet the people he's putting in power. When I see in power people like Robert Kennedy, people like, let's say, Peter Hegseth, people like the guy who has just dropped out, Matt Gaetz. I mean, these are people with a history. It's almost like you're putting other felons, like the felon putting felons in power. So I'm a little bit hesitant, and I'll probably try to see something positive a little bit later as we move on in this interview. But that is what I hear. But there may be some good that might come of it. We'll see. Let's wait and see.
Thank you so much. From the economic perspective, most people still talk about when Trump or when Republicans are in power, the economy improves. So from your own judgment, Professor Macharia Munene, you are a wonderful historian, and you are a wonderful professor in public policy, especially in international relations. You really understand how the world is right now. Do you believe, or do you think that this time round the Republican administration is going to beat the Democratic administration in ensuring that the economy will grow, especially in America? Based on that, exactly after a day when Trump was elected, the stock market really did so well. So do you believe that there's something, maybe there's some magic about Trump's administration ensuring that the economy will be better, or these are just illusions?
Well, I think there is a possibility that the US economy will improve. He has indicated that he's willing to pump in some money into domestic investments, whether it is drilling oil, American oil, instead of importing it, whether it's highway renewal, um, something to stimulate the economy. That is likely to happen. And since he talks a lot about cutting foreign expenses, not spending money abroad, when he can spend that money within the United States. He's not a big fan of foreign aid in any way. So that money supposedly to be invested within the United States can help to stimulate the economy. Now, in the long run, if the American economy is doing very well, the chances are that the other countries will enjoy that prosperity. It has a way of rippling off into other places. There is that possibility. The chances that Kenya will benefit are not as high as some of us would like to imagine, in the sense that Kenyans tend to be more consumer oriented as opposed to producing for themselves. And that in itself is a drawback, is a policy drawback that our officials ignore the production side of the economy and tend to concentrate on more on the consumption, especially when the elite are doing all the consuming and the others are left wandering on the streets. So they may not be able to benefit very much. But if there was to be a shift in Kenyan attitude, so as to stress production, which will mean stimulating the local production by reducing taxes, which we are not doing because we're increasing taxes instead. So the good economy that might, as a result of the policies to be adopted in the United States, may not resonate very well here because our policies seem to be steered in the wrong direction. But there is a hope that President Ruto will realize he's been making mistakes because people are telling him he's been making mistakes. And part of the reason he makes mistakes is because the country is overly dependent on foreign powers and foreign interests. Whether it's IMF, World Bank, or it's some entities called Adani or some other things, or the United Arab Emirates, there is that dependency on foreign dictates and advice that tend to be detrimental to the interest of the country as a whole. And sometimes this has had the effect of creating disturbances, uprisings in the country that are not necessarily very good. Because whenever you have some uprisings and disturbances, no growth takes place. Instead, you have underdevelopment taking place. So we do hope that there may be some readjustment in terms of policy so that we can concentrate on producing for the Kenyan market first before we think of selling to some other people somewhere else.
Thank you so much, Professor Macharia. Professor Diangui,
Yes.
you've heard how Professor Macharia has really put it so clearly.
Yes.
From your own perspective, do you believe?
Right.
Do you buy Professor Macharia's idea, or you might add or subtract some of his words, the way you exactly put it? Seemingly,
Right.
yes and no. So go ahead, Professor Diangui.
Right. Yeah. Of course, I do agree with Professor Macharia in many ways, but I want to make it very clear. Trump doesn't care so much about Africa or Kenya or any one of those places. He has made it very clear from the first go, the very first time, it is make America great again. It's MAGA. It's about America. And the policies he has in place have nothing to do with countries like Africa unless they're going to benefit America. It's all about America. Now, make no mistake about the growth of the American economy, Professor Mashari. This is not necessarily because of any Trump policies. We are thriving on policies that have been there with Biden, whatever anybody might say, and the economy is in a very good place. Even the first time Trump inherited the economy from Obama, it was very good. And when he brought similar policies as he's bringing now, maybe even more, these tax cuts and all the things he's doing for the rich, by the way, in the long run, I think it is more destructive. In the short run, we think that liberalization of the policies and the tax cuts and the interest rates may appear good, and as you saw, the stock market shot up. In the short run, it is good, but there is greater risk, and this came up. If you ever listen to what Kamala Harris was talking about, and it was very well depicted, that the things Trump was proposing may, in the long run, hurt even the American economy. But I want to say this a little bit more positive side, like Mr. Professor Machete mentioned. If the external gifts you are getting are not coming anymore, the good tendency of the Kenyan government is to try and make sure that the domestic economy is good. So I pray that the Ruto advisors may tell him, look, let us prepare for a time without the support of your people. Ms Whitman is gone. And I don't know who the new ambassador will be, but I don't know it will be so favorable like Ms Whitman. Started in your belt, and the growth of a domestic economy is good. So that might be good. But I want to also say positively, because I think I've been sounding a bit too negative, and it's probably what I'm going through. AGOA, which is probably the center of the AGOA, will remain stable. I don't think there'll be any significant change with that. I don't think Trump policy. Remember, Trump is not even too focused about the foreign Africa. So AGOA, I think, will remain stable, and Kenya is a participant in AGOA. I don't think we will have any significant change. Now, there are a few things that might affect in the election. Trump's issue on climate change was Biden and in the Democratic government supports in the climate change ventures, and Kenya has been in the forefront of doing that. I don't think we expect any money from Trump about your policies on climate change, implementing your policies on climate change. Ruto had come out very openly, like one of the leaders in the climate in Africa. And whether that was real or just talk, because that happens once in a while, I don't know. But now, I don't think that matters, as we saw. And I was quite surprised that the leader in that aspect was not able to go to the Conference of Parties 29 in Baku, Azerbaijan. I don't know why he did not go. Nobody went there. But this is a sign that this kind of money coming outside from other forces, particularly from America, is not coming anymore. There's one thing I wanted to say, and I hope we can spend a little bit of time on it, that they ought to be very effective, and I pray that happens. The Haiti issue. This was more genius from Biden and Meg Whitman and all that, sending Kenyan soldiers there, and I hope we can address that and see how we, Trump government affect that, because I am praying that that happens very fast before they start killing our children there.
Thank you so much, Professor Njangui. Yeah, we are coming to that, but before that, let's now a little bit focus more on this. I mean, the conditions or the issues which really made Meg Whitman resign. It was she really took a very hasty decision to resign. But online, so many Kenyans really were very mad about her, and I don't really understand why she basically just decided to resign immediately when most Kenyans started labeling her to be the worst ambassador Kenyans ever had. So, Professor Macharia, from your own perspective again, Meg Whitman, was she a blessing or a curse to Kenya? And why Kenyans, I mean, why did Kenyans want her to move away immediately when Trump won the election?
Well, it is a reflection of the public attitude towards the president himself. It's not so much Meg Whitman as Ruto. So, and since he was seen to be the shepherd, sometimes he was referred to as the prime minister, but it was she who was giving orders of what is to be done in Kenya, and Ruto just followed the advice. The argument is that Ruto usually does not listen to anybody's advice unless it is Meg Whitman, because the others. And since Ruto's policies have not been very favorable to the Kenyans, and being associated with that would explain the type of reaction that people had on this matter. That she was identified with policies that many Kenyans have problems with in supporting being the kind of cheerleader for Ruto. And people, they're very happy about that cheerleading in that sense. Now, she probably meant well. And I think when Biden appointed her, because she said that she was given an assignment to come to Kenya and help to turn it into digital place because she's a digital woman and therefore knows how to do things. And that's why she tried very hard to sell. At one time, she looked as if she was Kenya's ambassador to the United States as opposed to the other way around.
Sure.
And people said, okay, fair enough. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, is she the worst ambassador, American ambassador to Kenya? I doubt whether it's possible to say that. I think she tried her best. She just didn't come out right because she was paired with somebody who is in trouble in Kenya from the public. That within 2 years, it had become a serious question about his popularity, and mainly because of the various policies that have appeared to surrender Kenya's sovereignty to foreign entities. Have also appeared as if it's a country run by kleptocrats. And at one time, the president himself said that his cabinet secretaries and other high officials were incompetent, and he appointed them. So the question is, why did you appoint incompetent people in the first place and then say they're incompetent? So all the accumulation of all these things, because the country is suffering, people are suffering, and because they are suffering, they take that suffering on the president as being responsible for it. And so anyone associated with the president, like Meg Whitman, gets the blame. And after all, she was organized for him to have a state visit in the US and maybe go and sit on Biden's chair in the Oval Office. It didn't look very nice. Then the association with the Haiti mission, which was fairly unpopular. A lot of people said that this is a big mistake, but it was kind of bulldozed anyway. And now you have 400 Kenyan police officers. There was supposed to be 1,000. It would have been a problem sending the other 600. Other countries were supposed to send another 1,000 or so. It didn't happen. So the whole thing appears to be going down the drain. And Kenya might find itself left with a very big problem on its hands, because if Trump comes and he says he's not going to fund that thing, if Biden could not fund it properly, who made the promise? Trump may not be willing to do it. But all these things cumulatively indicate that things are not very good. We have complaints of kidnapping on the streets of Nairobi, whether it is Kenyans or foreigners who happen to be in the country being kidnapped or abducted in behalf of some other countries. The image is not very good. And people are worried about this kind of thing. How can Kenya, a country perceived to be very safe and the ideal place to be a place of abductions, you know, and extrajudicial killing. These are concerns that people raise, and they are all turned on who? On the president and his main cheerleader from America, Meg Whitman. That would be my explanation as to why there was that. But was she the worst? It's hard to say that. It's hard to say it. But she tried her best. It was just bad timing for her.
Thank you so much, Professor Mashari. You'll get time maybe to expound more. It's just because of the time, you might not really exhaust everything. But Professor Ndiangui, the president told us that this mission was going to be funded exclusively by the American taxpayer. $100 million was allocated, was supposed to be spent in the Haiti mission, being spearheaded by the Kenyan. Let's call them peacemakers or peace, whatever you call it. But right now, when the Minister for Finance, Mr. John Badi, told Kenyans that the Kenyan taxpayers' money, up to a tune of 2 billion Kenyan shillings has been spent, everybody got shocked. Now Kenyans are asking so many questions. Where did the 100 million, which was basically allocated, go to? Was this money released before the Kenyan peacekeepers went to Haiti, or there's something here completely very wrong, and Kenyans are still in the dark? So what's your take, Professor Ndiangui?
Yes, but before I even get there, let me allude to something about Meg Whitman for a minute. Just, I think Meg Whitman meant well, but she was a bit too naive to understand the complexities of a country like Kenya. I didn't think she understood that what she's getting into, that this is not just a matter of digital stuff. The corruption, the deep corruption. And when, as Professor Macharia says, she decided to become like the ambassador of Kenya to the United States, quote unquote, she took it upon herself to sell the president. And she wanted to make him look good. But it's a bit too difficult to make somebody who is not good look good. You cannot clean somebody who is so dirty, no matter how much soap you use. So she tried to make him look good. And the more he started looking good and feeling like a good boy, he felt good, and he went on doing the bad things. He went on to more mad. So let me give a few points here. Meg Whitman will not understand that Ruto and his government were only about themselves and getting money for themselves, not for the country. So the money that was coming for any projects, including that one of Haiti, most of it was most likely not going to that purpose. It was going to other people's pockets. They were going to buy Sudi's watches and other people doing all the kind of things they talked about that they were bragging about they have, because there was a lot of free money coming in. Meg Whitman, when she was told about the money not being there, also the issue of the finance bill, we believe she and the other, let's say, Bretton Woods institutions were totally involved in that very infamous finance bill. And she said, push it. When she knew it was not coming and people started being killed, it was already too late for her to tell her friend that things are not going on well. She had to leave. You asked that question first. She had to leave because she found herself caught up in a mess. So to Meg Whitman, Ruto was the biggest, Trump elections was the biggest blessing. I'm telling you, it was the only escape route. She realized, this mess, I cannot unearth this. It was a blessing to Meg Whitman to get out. She was not, Ruto is not, Trump is not in power yet. Nobody has just out. But she realized, this I cannot deal with. How do you deal, and Professor Mashadi has talked about, how do you, in a democratic country, from a democratic country like America, deal with the abductions, to deal with it? How do you deal with the killing of young people who are just demonstrating in a country that professes that is free to assemble? What are you telling Ruto Whitman? He's your friend. You got him in your pocket. Are you telling him it's okay to kill these boys? That Nairobi has now become a city of abductions, and that you are watching Whitman and you are saying nothing? People, all this nonsense, focusing attention on the wrong issues like the impeachment of the deputy president, and not focusing on the suffering of the Kenyans. This was a big blessing for her, my friend. She had to run away. It's a mess. I think she meant well, but it was too messy. And as Professor Macharia says, even if she meant well, she was in the midst of a very, very dirty environment. So now, I want to say this, and I hope Ruto's people or somebody in power will hear this. Please get our 400 boys, if they are still there, out of Port-au-Prince right now. The sooner you do it, the better. We deal with the money, because I think a lot of money has been stolen there. How can Kenya be the ones financing something that have been promised? And now I know Trump elections is not going to finance that nonsense. Because what are 2,000 people? And remember, now it's only our 400 people there. I don't know whether there are many others. What do you think they're going to do to those guns? Those guns, I live in Florida. I know them, some of them. Some of them are from here. I hear them. Some of them are problematic. Also, we had meetings. We're not meetings about guns. People who are very well equipped, people who are very smart, and they know what they're doing. Take over their. And you said, who are equipped policemen to Haiti? These guys can kill our people any day they want. There's nothing they are doing there. Please, Ruto, get those guys out. Don't you dare. You're wasting money. You're not going to achieve anything. And sometimes I want to tell President Ruto and his people, it is nice to say, I meant well, it did not work, it did. I am sorry about it. Hoping that they are still all alive. Ruto goes there and comes to lie, oh, things are going on. No, they are not, Ruto. You know that they are not. Please stop lying to the people. Things are going wrong. Our boys are not effective at all. 400 out of the thousands of highly. By the way, remember some of those guys have equipment they're buying from America, the guns. These guys are very well equipped. Please don't let our people be killed. Don't let it go beyond. Because I'm telling you, and I'm serious, there is no effectiveness in that kind of nonsensical project. There is nothing that you're going to gain. And there's a time to say, and it shows even pure leadership to say, I am sorry, I made a mistake. He had been told before anyway, it's going back. And that shows maturity in leadership than keeping on going on with some nonsense or trying to justify nonsense. It's not going to work, and the world knows. And Trump government is not going to give any money. And looks like you said, engineer, that some of that money now, Badi is talking about money that was spent on that project from Kenya. We were told it was coming from America. So where did the money go if America said it? Or America lied to you? Who is lying to who now? But at least first and foremost, I care more about life here. We talk about money. Get those boys out. And engineer, I ask anybody listening in KDRTV anywhere, please make sure you talk no. Get them out now. We will even forgive you in a better way for making a big mistake than if we lose blood there for nonsensical games. We're going to pick our children in Port-au-Prince. It's messy. You are there, President Ruto. You know it's a mess. You know it. Speak the truth. Get the people out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Professor Macharia, from Professor Ndiangui's perspective is that many Kenyans didn't really want this mission to happen. They didn't want to send their police to Haiti when we still have so many problems back in Kenya. And right now, it's a quagmire because we thought Kenyans thought very well that this mission was fully funded by the American government from what we had and information we found. But right now, Kenyans are astonished. They're really wondering what is the Minister for Finance really telling us? That the government is claiming that it's really hard, it can't track, there's no money, and now we are funding all the, I don't know whether it's partly or whatever, but we are funding the peacekeepers in Haiti. Kenyans are very mad. So are we really getting enough information, or is the government really releasing hard-time information or real-time information to the Kenyans, or there's something they're basically hiding? Look at what really happened with Adani, whatever we call it, Maio saga. Right now, when they were indicted in the U.S., even after being indicted in the U.S., we had the finance minister, we had the minister for energy saying they don't really care about what is really happening in America. All they want is Adani to continue with the project in Kenya. What is the problem with President Ruto's government, especially his ministers? What's the relationship with the Kenyan government and the Kenyan populace? What's your take on that, Professor Maio?
Well, the public is very skeptical about ministers. Some of them have a problem making sense to themselves, let alone to other people. So when the minister for energy says that the fact that somebody has been indicted in New York does not mean that we should be worried because he has not been indicted in India or here. Therefore, it sounded awkward. But the impression that the government as a whole does not care about what the people think or feel. The impression that many in high office are busy pocketing a lot of things. The impression, the story coming from the Minister for Finance that Kenya is spending or has spent 2 billion in Haiti is itself a surprise, given that we were made to believe that Biden was going to pay for everything. In fact, they had talked about $200 to $300 million for the purposes of the mission, and now it looks as if they have not spent even a penny. If Kenya has spent 2 billion, then Biden has not spent anything. And we understand that in Haiti now, 85% of the country is under the gangs anyway, and even the airport is not secure anymore the way we thought were. So it's a worrying situation, and worrying, especially when the government gives the impression that it really does not care about what the people feel, about the country, about those police officers, as long as a few people get some money, and as long as people in high office engage in conspicuous consumption, and they really do show off about their consumption, which tends to annoy even more people. It's an attitude challenge, and that's what I think we are saying. President Ruto and his team need to have a meeting with themselves and evaluate, because the action the show and the deputy president, it was a sideshow to divert attention from a very serious matter that was happening. Unfortunately for them, this person seemingly has become very popular, and he is seemingly gaining more and more clout among the people, more than he did when he was president. That's dawning on some people right now, and they're not very comfortable about it. It's the friendship or the handshake that was there between former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and President Ruto appears to be shaky right now. Although there is still that dream of sending him to the AU to be chairman of the AU Commission, he has competition, which he may have a problem overcoming from Djibouti and other places. And this kind of information that's coming out now does not help Raila Odinga very much in his bid for the AUC job, because it is Kenya on trial. And if the whole country, the whole continent, gets to know about these things, in which some names were mentioned of very prominent people, the, there is a likelihood that other leaders in Africa will be very hesitant to trust a Kenyan in that kind of a job, the way it is. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I know that the Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is the Prime Cabinet Officer, Musalia Mudavadi, has been trying to put the best foot forward. He was in Baku to talk about climate change, where people got nothing. So they are very angry, they got nothing. He's been to Addis Ababa to campaign for his man, but maybe it's a hard job to do. But all this is affected by the fact that Kenya does not have a very good image as of now. And that bad image is coming from within, not so much from outside. It is a self-inflicted wound. And because it is a self-inflicted wound, all that others can do is maybe to add a little salt to the wound and then feel the pain a little more. So the things are not looking good. And the Haitian escapade, because that's what it appears to be, maybe some people made a little money and felt good talking about it, but it's a disaster for Kenya and for the image of the country. And as the professor says, we hope that none of our young people, boys and girls, will be hurt in the place. But the chances of being hurt are very high, given that the weapons are coming from the United States anyway to the gangs. And given that the United States itself had thousands of people in Haiti and it failed. And they were there for more than a year or so, or two. The Brazilians were there, thousands of people, soldiers actually, and they failed. So what is 400 police officers going to do? It's a kind of engaging in self-deception. Why Kenya would want to deceive itself in such a manner is not for lack of advice and warnings, because a lot of Kenyans said this is wrong. But as usual, they were ignored because some other motives were behind the scenes other than just going to create peace or keep the peace in Haiti.
Thank you so much, Professor Macharia, for giving your perspective and what really Kenyans think about the Kenyan government. I mean, I saw the how do I call it, the Catholic bishop call the president a liar, and so many other bishops are actually on toll telling the president he's a liar. And it's really becoming very difficult for Kenyans to believe what the president is telling them. I also saw, is it yesterday or a day before yesterday, when Kenyans were basically shouting at the president, telling him he's a liar when he was trying to, when he was on top, his famous way of addressing Kenyans from vehicles, from top of the roof of the vehicles, and telling them, we are going to do this, we are going to do this. But Kenyans basically just rejected him. So I don't really understand how the Kenyan perspective is really, how the Kenyan people are looking at the president. The Adani issue was really discussed extensively in Parliament, especially from the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and let me just say the Senate Committee really discussed this issue extensively. But still, the government was adamant. We don't really understand what the PP, whatever we call it, PIP or PPP. Is this thing something which is really hid, which is supposed to be hid under the table, whereby Kenyans can't really get information? And you want to tell me that there are no investors out there who are really ready to perform part of, to really help Kenya achieve its goals in development? That this single Adani can come and then take everything. And when the government is being asked to be to be realistic, because this information could have, I mean, Adani could have basically, we could have basically seen the Adani company just come to the airport and take it without us really realizing, because it took a wonderful Kenyan or a patriotic Kenyan living in France to tell the Kenyan people that there is really something terribly happening here. Up to now, we don't really understand how all these stories began. Right now, is Kenya really safe in the hands of President William Ruto, or there are so many other things really going to happen? Professor Macharia, you have discussed a little bit more about the quagmire Raila Odinga is right now. Raila Odinga has been a wonderful, a patriotic Kenyan, especially in fighting for bad governance. But right now, Raila Odinga's name is really being soiled. So is it, I mean, is Ruto really pushing Raila out of politics or out of good legacy, or what's really happening? Professor Ndiangu, what's your perspective on this?
Sad. You know, I like doing positive interviews, but this one is a very sad one. Particularly, let's talk about Raila Odinga for a moment. Man, I have admired that man's policies. Raila has been in the forefront in so much fight against corruption, against injustices, against everything that was bad. But as he moves on, even from the time he had handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta, that's where I'm starting. And up to now, it's almost like he's moving from one place to another that he does not have a stud. And I think the original Laila who had a stud when he was fighting Moi's times and when he was there with Kibaki and all that, I think that was a man who we could trust anything he says. Right now, the whole country is looking at Raila and saying, who is he? Who is this man? He's moving. He even spoke in favor of Adani. Then he went for this new handshake now with Ruto. Then he got 3 or 4 positions. Then he was happy like a little kid. Almost like the same Ruto and America, Biden giving him something. Then now, oh, he's happy. He's happy. He has been given that. Badi and all those other people. 3 other people. Then now, things are not going well. Now he's going backwards. Who are you, Raila? And as you asked, is Kenya safe with the types of you? The original Raila would trusted you. You stood for us. He sold out the opposition. A government like this needed an opposition to say no. In fact, still because the issue is still Trump. I'm not so worried about Trump because there's still going to be a very strong opposition, although the numbers of the Democrats, congressmen, and women are not as many, but they're still going to be there. We needed an opposition. Ruto killed it. Odinga killed it too. He was bought. We needed somebody to speak up. He used to speak for us. He used to be the leader of the demonstrations. We lost the man. I am telling you, the Raila who was the original Raila would have been the best AU chairman. The Raila we have now should have no business. He should have stepped down now or show us that he is the original Raila. And no country, as Professor Macharia said, you said, engineer, no country now respects anything coming from Kenya. If he is the one sponsored, no matter how much Musalia Mudavadi tries and anybody else tries to push him, it's a few other days. Look at the post, the informal posts I see are talking about even Tanzania or those other countries, except Nigeria, which seems to support Raila for whatever reason. He's lost. And he's like a neo-statesman. We love Raila. Raila, come back, man. We don't know who you are now. You're moving all over. We need the original Raila who tell us this is bad. Now, let me also mention something, and it's so sad what you have said. Is Kenya safe? Is really Kenya safe with this government? Or with these lies? You've seen the Catholic, the other bishops and everybody, they are saying there's something totally wrong. We all know there is a lot that is rotten. The person who seemed to have been talking about it, Rigathi Gachagua, is out. And then there are people who are just confused. Do we stick with him? Do we go? Do we stick with him? Do we go? Man, it's about time that we reevaluated the situation going on. Ms Whitman leaving was like, I know this is a total mess. The mess is coming. How much does the country continue, particularly when the economy is so bad? Listen, for all of us, I have a number of people, even now, as we finish this, I'm going to send some money. Because there's somebody, I've just gotten a message here, somebody has just been taken to hospital and they must be treated, but they're waiting outside to be treated because their cards or whatever, they have no money. And there are people with money, they would have had that and HIF, whatever it is, the new one we scored. Now they're asking, I just sent a message to say, yeah, just let them be treated. I'm going to pay an interview. This is the times they are living in. And it's a lot of money, those hospital bills. People are dying. So back to that question, is Kenya safe? I'm afraid not. Whether it is education or hospitals, these people, Masharia, I'm telling you, my brother, it's a very, I hope I am wrong. I pray I am wrong. But I have a very sad part. I look forward to people like Raila. Right now, there is no opposition. Kashabu was talking. There's nobody who can tell Ruto. And Ruto is a liar, we know that. So when he lies, we don't even know what to believe. Where are we? Have we sold the country completely? Have we forgotten we had a country and let this man run away with it and just destroy it, putting in very crazy people there in power who don't even know what they are doing? Some of them were more decent, but when they get into the mess, it's a part of the mad, and it's a very messy environment. No, the answer, Bwana Kibato, is Kenya is not safe. We need to wake up, whether we're in the diaspora or in Kenya, to say, hello, Ruto, maybe you better call new elections before 2027. I don't think Kenya can survive another 2 years. We used to be the darling of the world. Kenya is a loved country, man. Everyone wanted to go to America, from America to Kenya. It's better than, all those African countries, everybody, they laugh at Kenya now. This guy is like a joke. He just talks. And talking is good, but he does the opposite. Lies, telling us money in Haiti. Come on, stop it. Yes, Kenya is in a very, very dangerous situation. Like those people who, if I did not say start treating them, they could possibly die. If we don't start treating Kenya, we could have people dying, or Kenya completely dying. And we don't want. Woe unto us having the coup from the military or any other way of getting power. We don't want a failed state, but the direction we are going is not remote to think that we could get there. We don't want it. And I'm glad about this conversation because it makes me get out of some fears that I have inside me. Professor, I'm telling you, I'm very worried about this. I don't know what you think. Maybe give me some hope, man.
Thank you so much, Professor Ndiangui. So, Professor Macharia, you've lived enough to understand Kenyan politics. You lived during the time of Kenyatta, you lived during the time of Moi, Uhuru, and now we have Ruto, Kibaki, and now we have Ruto. Kenyans are still wondering the direction they are taking. Professor Ndiangui is saying that it's not safe, actually, even to the next election. Professor Ndiangui really wishes President Ruto to resign because things are really very difficult back in Kenya. I was in Kenya for a while, not really for a while, but I was in Kenya from September through October. I saw how people are suffering. I went to the hospital. Really, people are really suffering. So many people, I can tell you, pretty sure that so many people are turned away. People are in emergency. People who needed actually to be treated in trauma conditions, but they were turned away because of the shisha, whatever they call it. Is Ruto administration really ready for change, especially even in the hospital sector? What were they really waiting for? Was it an emergency just to, change from one? It's basically a name change from one whatever insurance, not even a different insurance cover from or whatever NHIF, whatever. Could they really give some timeline for Kenyans to be ready for the software? And I don't understand. I'm an engineer. From engineering perspective, I don't really understand what kind of this software, because it's basically a software which costs 100 and 2 or 4 billion. What kind of mess is President really Ruto making Kenyans undergo? And the other thing is, from the Mulima perspective, he lost Gachagua, and thinking that he's going to throw away Gachagua and then bring in Professor Kindiki. But things are really getting worse every day. Ruto is being booed. His supporters, especially the MPs, now can't step in their constituencies and then address people. I saw even the MP for Nyeri was booed and he was told to go away. Yes, Gachagua might be having his own issues, but is now Ruto losing the Mulima, and things are really going downhill for him, Professor Macharia. What's your perspective?
Well, we tend to have leaders who want instant things. So he comes up with an idea. I want a new medical system under my name, so it should be done immediately. The National Health Insurance Fund, NHIF, was working very well, and that's what people know. Right now, all those people who are suffering did have the NHIF coverage, but now they are being told until you are in SHI or SHA, you get nothing, and which is a tragedy. Now, 100 and something billion NHIF money appears to have disappeared somewhere, because ideally it should have been transferred to SHA, ideally, but it seems to have disappeared in one way or another. And it's rumored that it's connected with Adani. So there's part of that Adani network that has been a lot of problems. That now, the people do not trust the government. The loss that President Ruto has suffered was not so much because of Gachagua, although it added something. It was his general policies that appeared, like the medical one, and the education one. Now you have thousands of university students locked out because he decided to come up with a different way of deciding who goes to the university and who doesn't. And just some bureaucrat who sit somewhere and say, you look as if you are rich, you should pay more money for university. Something like that. And which is so very discriminatory. There was nothing wrong with the previous way of educating people in the university. It's a national obligation. But what they decided to do is come up, he called up, created a committee, a commission, and essentially instructed them to go and come up with this particular model of university funding. And the commission just came and did what they were told to do. And then get the vice chancellors, who are all yes men or yes women. They were put in a room and they were asked, what do you think of this? And they said it is good. And people say, what's wrong with these people? And they are vice chancellors. No wonder the country is in a mess. If these are the vice chancellors who cannot even say something is wrong. Now we have a crisis in our hands. Apart from the university lecturers going on strike, but it's not the first time lecturers have gone on strike. We went on strike in the 1990s, led by Koro Adar, the first one. But this one it seems to have been even worse. Now, it is worse not simply because the lecturers were on strike, but the students are not there because they have been locked out. And no good explanation has been given for it, apart from just somebody saying, you should pay more. And you know, so and so should pay less. Why? We think he's poor and you are richer. Ridiculous. And when people say, well, okay, but these are instant decisions to be obeyed immediately because the boss has said so. If you've been listening to former deputy Gachagua, who was speaking, and he was saying in an interview that in the cabinet, no minister would dare speak his mind, because you just get a special eye and you coil. So, so that he doesn't get the reality of what is going on. He gives himself the advice he needs. And when things are going wrong, he therefore does not get it as he should. Probably now he's beginning to do it. Probably. But whenever he goes, he's going to different places. And people are openly calling him a liar on his face. And they are calling him worse than a liar. They also say mwizi. It's not a very good thing for a leader to be booed repeatedly. So when the bishops gathered courage, the Catholic bishops, and they issued a letter, the encyclical, the one has to be read in all the churches for a month, saying those things. Then the other mainstream churches came on board and said, yes, we agree, because the country is in a mess. And they're putting the blame right at the feet of the president. That in itself should persuade the president to rethink. Even some of his big supporters, like Evangelist Teresia Wairimu, among the first to come and say, this is not the government we voted for or we supported. Because these religious people were in the forefront of campaigning for Ruto to be president. Now, within 2 years, they are all disappointed and they are calling him out. And he is looking very unpopular. It is said right now that he's looking for ways out, whether he should reach out to Uhuru Kenyatta to see whether they can cut a deal, one way or the other. And Raila is demanding a few more slots, more for his people. Some people are said to be on the chopping board, the Speaker of the National Assembly, because somebody else wants the job. Whether he'll be moved out is or not. It's a mess. But the main thing right now is to constitute an IEBC, the Independent Electoral Board Commission, because for 2 years now, the country has not had an election board. And there are by-elections that are supposed to be conducted. So even those who are calling for an election, it cannot be held because there is no organ to do it. And maybe whether it is deliberate or not, it is an obstacle along the way that, yes, there are people calling for an election right now. And they have a problem because it cannot be done because we have no electoral board. The commission is not there. So both the parliament, which is indolent, whether it's the Senate or the National Assembly, a few people speak up. There's no question about it. And they are very courageous. We have a situation where, particularly the National Assembly, when they are pressured, they vote for wrong things like the finance bill. And they voted for it on 4 reasons. One of 4 reasons. 1, fear. 2, bribery. 3, ignorance. Because we had one MP say that he was asleep and he had his name, so he said yes. So that's, he had not been there. And a few of them, we can say they voted their cause, they knew what they were doing. They believed in it. Like this impeachment of Gachagua, there are people who really believed in getting rid of Gachagua for different reasons, not because he was guilty, but they just wanted him out. So those are the reasons why they do things which are awkward, instead of using their conscience to do the right thing. And so far, people are very unhappy with the parliament. Yes, there have been a few people like Richard Onyonka, the one who's been pushing this Adani thing in a very strong way. Really campaigned for it. Now, is there hope? Yes. As bad as things are, there's no need to lose hope, because we have a very active youth who are raising questions. And because the youth are raising questions, and they are raising solid questions, they showed it in June, the Gen Z, yeah? For 2 days, they forced the government to withdraw the finance bill, although it's being sneaked back in different ways. They forced the cabinet to go on leave before it was returned in an indirect way. That mood, that emotion, and the promise of the youth gives a lot of hope that things will be okay, because they are raising questions which the parents and grandparents were unwilling to raise. And because they are raising those questions, President Ruto is in a lot of trouble with the youth and with the rest of the population, which now supports the youth.
Thank you so much, Professor Macharia. I know you have more insight, but let Professor Ndiangui come in, okay? Go ahead, Professor Ndiangui.
Yes, I want to add something, because actually, Professor Macharia, you amused me. You know, those people voted for the fear, the bribery, the ignorance, and the conscience. But I think one of the institutions that we need to recover very fast, and help the Onyonkas and the other Omtatas and all that are listening, please, let's get back Parliament to normalcy. This nonsense of voting because of fear. This is one man. Bribery. This is how much money can you be bribed to sell everything that you have? Stop this nonsense. Ignorance. You know there was an interesting one also, Professor Macharia, who was asked, what did you like about the finance bill? And said it was too long. I did not read it. You voted for something you don't. I not even read it. You don't even know what you are voting for. But if the president likes it, that's why I vote for it. So, but I want to give some hope. I also want to, you give the young people, and I like that. I have some hope. There are two weapons Luto has always used, and they're weakening. One is the church. They have pointed it out. You see, the church environment is very nice for Luto. You know, like the pastor or the bishop, when they speak, even if we don't agree with what they are saying, we can never answer in church. Otherwise, we might be in trouble with God. We don't answer. And Luto used the pulpit. And the pastors allowed him to use the pulpit to lie, and because we cannot answer, he got away with a lot. We can talk outside, we don't agree. That is what? That is weakening. And once Luto is kicked out of speaking in the church, lying in the church, or if he does so, we point it out, then there is hope. There's no follow-up. The other one he has used, and this is so sad, but I'm glad the Catholic Church came up with it, is money. Luto uses that weapon. Oh, he comes and he gives you money. Oh, then the bishops and all those people and everyone says it's an answer to our prayers. Hallelujah. Now people told him, keep your money. When people stopped being bought, I said there is hope here, Professor Macharia. When people stopped, if we go on now to a culture where even in normal elections, not necessarily the presidents, that people are not just looking at how much money you have been given, we can get reasonable leaders because we are not being bought. That is where my hope is. I'm hoping that Luto, if he goes to church, he keeps quiet like me. Let the bishop do everything and we walk out. I'm not saying he doesn't go to church. Maybe God can forgive his sins. That's okay. That's not for me. But to be told to be lying, I'm glad about what the churches are doing now. Money. He told us there's no harabi or whatever it was. I don't know the nature of that. But he's still giving the money. He's the only one left to go. Oh, buy this church house for the pastor for 100 million shillings or something. What are you talking about? Remember, I hope people will remember. People watching this, that money that Ruto gives is not his money. It is the country's money, and the country's money is my money as a taxpayer and everybody else's money. So it is the Wajiko's money being used to build the house, but Ruto gets the credit. So if we now say no more to money, which is with the heart tainted. I was talking to the bishops yesterday evening because they were here supporting me because something I'm going through with these people hate people here. And they were there praying for me. And we said, let us also remember those abductions. The churches, if it says no, and then they are not paid to keep quiet, that will be a safe area. So, Professor Machadi, I agree with you, the young people, but more so, me, I am lying on the hope. Remember, Ruto won through the church. No, Bwana ni arogo show. Yeah, Bwana sifiwe. Nonsense. The man, tukafikiria ameokoka. Where? So we're going that. I want also to talk about some of his ambassadors, the one in the United States. At some point, I need to say, what are you bringing to us, my friend? What are you doing? Back to Trump. This guy who was the speaker of Barico, that's all. He's never even been to America. And he left there with 100 million shillings stolen from the county there. Is the one you are coming to be talking to Trump people here? The new ambassador? Replace Lazarus Maio as his ambassador? You bringing, what are you doing, Ruto, now? Back to Trump. Let me just talk about that. You are appointing ambassadors. That's a joke. Really. That guy is a joke. The guy was just, okay, he's a lawyer. He was just the speaker of Barigo County. There, he left having stolen, or at least was accused of having stolen 100 million shillings from the county. Whether it is true or not, I don't know. It was in parliament. I'm talking about the public. I'm not accusing him of anything. I read it. I asked him the other day, he said, oh, people start somewhere. You start from the biggest? You start from the tree at the top? Is it the best Ruto you can do to come talk to Trump? And come on, stop joking with people here. The guy is there now, you talk well like Ruto, hey, I'm going to give you ideas, I'm going to do this nonsense. This is not a guy who can do it. What are you doing in your relationship? We should be having somebody like Lazarus Maio, a seasoned diplomat who was there before and was there. This is a very serious embassy. And these are the people you're bringing to us to be dealing with all the 100,000 or 200,000. Come on. I don't want to get upset with the engineer, but this is like a joke. But there's hope, Prof.
Thank you so much, Professor Ndiangui. Let's now a little bit focus on our main topic, what Trump elections actually means for Kenya and the immigrant, especially who are living in America here. There is a very serious incident which has actually happened to one of the panelists, Professor Ndiangui. We really want you to tell Kenyans or to tell the Americans and the immigrants living in America what really happened and what do you think why did you think, what do you think really happened, and what is the motive behind whatever really happened to you, Professor Ndiangui?
Thank you so much. Actually, I was very reluctant to do this interview today, but I did not want, and I talked to my wife, she said, no, don't let these kind of situations dampen your spirit. There's still something to do, so go ahead with life. But early last week, I went to a house we are building. Hopefully we could have lived in it later on. I don't know now. We're building in a place called Cape Coral, Florida. It is a predominantly white neighborhood, but of course there are some black people there. And we were really traumatized to see a house that was just nearly finished had been destroyed by some people who were very, very angry with it. They broke all the walls, the windows, the doors, and everything. And of course, they wrote there, I don't feel comfortable saying those words on TV, but it is FUN. I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about. FUN. Pig in lead. He also wrote down somewhere there was, I hate niggers, I hate that kind of stuff. But they destroyed everything. So I was saddened by the fact that I don't know whether there are people who know me personally, who are attacking me and were very angry, or there were people who just hate black people. I would rather it is the same and hope this I can change. So I went to, of course, naturally, I reported the police. And the news got wind of that. I was very traumatized by that, and they published a story. When they published the first story, I am saying because of that FUN and all that, it is a hate crime, and it is a hate crime. But the police said it is a criminal act. Oh, the community was in uproar. They said, no, we need a demonstration, and it was organized yesterday. It was going to be done on Saturday. It was a real uproar by the community to say, oh, no, you cannot cover this kind of thing. We are living in that kind of time. So they were so mad. So I decided that's not who I am. So I chose to go to see the chief of police. I said, the chief of police, we must get out together and call it what it is. You call it, it's a hate crime. And me, I will say, I love the police. I'm working with them. Because if I don't have the police, who am I going to report to help me recover my losses? You know what I mean? I need the police to work with. We all need the police, not just me. So we went on TV together with the chief of police, and we both did exactly that. And actually, we knew each other actually, because I'm the leader, I'm the president of the African Network. We knew each other. We have worked together a lot. So we went on air, and it was good. So the rallies were cancelled. But even then, more than hundreds of people came yesterday to the same house. They cleaned it up, white and black, and Hispanics, young, old, everybody. We cleaned up the house. We're gonna do it. It has turned out so good. But this is not an isolated incident. These are incidents that have increased after the elections. With this, actually, when you look at the TVs, the video TVs, the CTVs, they are showing this happened most likely, it's not confirmed yet, but on November 9th. November 9th was 3-4 days after the elections. Somebody points out like these kind of guys were in the celebration mood, like they have won something. And that is the scare. We are hoping they're just young people who are just upset about something and just enjoying vandalism, which is nonsense, rather than more of a political statement they were making. But the good thing is the whole community has come together. Everybody, my university, it was all there yesterday. My students were very mad. I was stopping them. We cannot have a rally. Let's just clean up the house. Let's get together. It has turned out very good. I also want to say on air, I have received so much good. I've never felt so loved, ever. Whether it's real or not, I think it is real actually. Most people have expressed their love for me. I was there with the bishops yesterday. People in Kenya, people anywhere in the world have reached out to me. We are with you. We are so sorry about what has happened. People have even donated some money. I don't know even sometimes for what it was, but I've gotten some money. I'll help it building some things. I'll put the camera now. But there's so much good that has come out of it. I have read in many other areas. These are incidents. I saw one in Indiana. I saw one in another place. These are incidents we must arrest because they have the potential of destroying any group of people anywhere. When you start seeing each other and fighting each other as black and white or whatever else, then the country is destroyed. This may be the aftermath of the elections, but I do believe that nobody in normal life would condone that kind of act. So we are moving on very well. My wife and I and my sons, everybody is feeling very encouraged by the support we are getting from the community. We are still a little bit traumatized. It's scary, particularly because we don't know whether there's some guy after us. Sometimes you hear something happening, you don't know whether it is, you see somebody coming close to you as you're driving, you say, hey, are they after me? But we will get over it. And we believe in a God who will make us move on. And the community has come so well together. I'm telling you, it's so good. So we're moving on.
Thank
so
you
that's
so
what
much.
happened. And if it's an incident of, oh, by the way, can I add this? I want to tell my Kenyans, And I want to make this very clear. I don't think Kenyans, only very few Kenyans, are what we call illegal immigrants. I want to make this very clear. The Kenyans may come as visitors and then they overstay. A person who has overstayed a visa is different from one who came through the wall. Are you together? So I do believe, this is my belief about the Trump government, because they campaigned on that immigration and so much fear out there. So many people have called me and called us with one voice, people, and know that that this is happening. I am saying we might have, I mean, not us, I'm not in that category, overstayed our visas. Kenyans overstayed their visas, not having come in as illegal migrants. So we may not be in the first category targeted. We don't know how this will evolve, but we should not be feeling so scared that things will happen. There should still be hope. And you are in the process of trying to make yourself legal. Just keep doing what you're doing. Stop fearing that you'll be caught. Let's just move on. We're good. Let's have hope. Like Professor Macharia, who is a hope person, I also want to hope that way too.
Thank you so much, Professor Ndiang. We might not really discuss more about what really happened because it's still under investigation. As the media, we are really bad to expound a little bit more. But let me now bring that question to Professor Macharia. Do you think that the migration aspect really played a pivotal role in ensuring Trump's victory? And what do you think about his intentions, especially to the immigrants, or the ones who are still going to come from different parts of the world, and now specifically from Kenya? Let's go on, Professor Macharia.
Yeah, the immigrants issue played a part, a major part, because it was appealing to fear. And when you talk about immigrants, you're not just talking about everybody who is an immigrant. It is specific categories of immigrants. People from Europe are not called immigrants. They are just welcomed anyway. So, it was felt that when Trump was talking about making America great again, essentially it was making America white again, because the fear that the white Anglo-Saxon America is becoming smaller. And part of the reason Trump won in the first place in 2016 was because of Obama. His hatred for Obama and appealing to that innate racism, which that's why I kept on saying that Obama was born in Kenya instead of in Hawaii, to appeal to that. The New Right movement, both in Europe and in America. And Trump is the best symbol of the New Right movement that has been gathering momentum. So the issue of the immigrants, and maybe might have played a little bit, my sympathies to the professor for what he went through, very unfortunate. But that cannot be ruled out of this New Right movement, feeling that it's our time, we have won, no matter what happens. Whether you like it or not, we have it, that sort of thing. Fortunately, there are enough sensible people in America that they will not let this become the norm. Although there was that feeling that the white America is recovering its place from those foreigners. And foreigners are people from Latin America and from Africa, not Europe. Don't forget that Trump's wife is East European, but that one is not. So not because the difference is there. There was one of those American intellectuals who argued that the United States was some sort of a pristine garden, and the rest of the world is a jungle. So we should keep the jungle people outside. And the same argument was picked up by Joseph Borrell, the European Commissioner. He talked about Europe being a garden and the rest of the world is a jungle. And the message together is keep everybody else out. Only the good people, the good white people should come in. Part of that fear, racist fear actually it is, the new right, is in some way the people of color have been making inroads in what previously was thought to be almost impossible. Obama's victory catapulted Trump into the presidency. Kamala Harris, part of the reason she lost, in my view, was race issue. She's combination of India, real India, not Native American, and some Jamaican, and then a woman. If there had to be a woman, it should have been a white woman like Hillary Clinton, but not this immigrant, daughter of two immigrants. And then you want to become president? See, it played, and I think that's why Trump eventually won. Not that he had better policies than Kamala Harris, but that fear in white America is real, and it played out. And some of it, now that he won, the overjubilation of some of those thuggish people are the ones who are harassing the professor and other people in all over the country. And it should not be a source of fear. It should keep the hope. And the good thing is the reaction in Florida was very encouraging. And I'm sure it will resonate all over the country. Now, outside the US, in England, you had the empire taking over the governance. An Indian of Kenyan background, Rishi Sunak, was prime minister. And the reaction in England was not very nice. I think partly that's how Keir Starmer won the election. So he turned England to the good white people. And the conservatives then went ahead and elected a Nigerian woman as their leader, which is now they're making some people jitter. What's going on? So the new right is working very hard to recover from what appears as if it's the empire, the imperial subjects are now coming over to become the rulers. And that's kind of scary to some of them. So I'm sure people like Winston Churchill are turning in their graves when they see the Conservative Party of Britain being led by a Nigerian. Or they see the Democratic Party in the United States. The people like Andrew Jackson and all the other great leaders of the Democratic Party, or even Woodrow Wilson, in their graves are turning, what is this? And so those we need to understand those are there, and then therefore prepare to deal with them, but not to lose hope.
Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much for that wonderful observation. What I can also tell the, especially the African immigrant, is that we are still on a wonderful trajectory. A couple of, I mean, not really a couple of, but a couple of days ago, let me say weeks now, not days, in Minnesota, we managed to elect a Kenyan American immigrant by the name Hulda Momanyi. And congratulations to you, Sister Hulda Momanyi, where you are. I actually call her my daughter. So congratulations to her so much. And again, yesterday I was really thrilled to go to a party hosted by the Kenyan people, thanking one of their own medical doctor was really elected as the 158th president for the Minnesota Medical Association. That was really wonderful, and the party was so lit. I mean, so many people came, so many some of our white friends or doctors actually attended the celebration, the ceremony. We were really much elated, and what we can also tell our youth is that, you know, hit books so hard, because the sky is the limit. The very best option is, if you really work hard, there are ways and means for you to be on top. So don't worry, and especially the ones who are also having a problem that Trump has been elected. The beauty part, I mean, America is not like Kenya, whereby if the president actually is the final on everything. But here there are systems, there are rules. At least there are wonderful rules which really protect the common man. So don't lose hope. Things are still okay. The other thing is, I really thank you very much, Professor Mong'are Munene, Professor Diangui, for this wonderful discussion. We'll continue having this particular discussion. Kenyans, everybody's really asking me all the time, why are we not having a regular discussion? So, Professor Mong'are, I know it's late at night right now back in Kenya, but thank you very much for your sacrifice. We need to educate our people. We really need to go out there and tell the people this is the right direction. They don't really need to lose hope. Young people like Morara, people like Omutata are really doing their very best, even in parliament, to tell people the right direction. People like Onyonka are spending sleepless nights in discussing issues related to good governance. So even President Ruto, wherever he is not really sitting pretty well, because he really understands that Kenyans are out here telling him the truth. But unfortunately, the things which are really happening out there, I'm basically wrapping up the interview, but the things which are really happening out there, especially the abductions, Kenya becoming, like Nairobi becoming an abduction center, is not really very good. Up to now, we are still having so many children who are still missing, or youths who are still missing from the abduction, which we are basically saw. Right now, we are also seeing people getting even abducted, and then the Kenyan police or the Kenyan government says, we don't know anything about it, but the information we got from Uganda, that Kizza Besigye, the former presidential candidate in Uganda, was abducted in the glare. I mean, the Kenyan police knew, but what the PS for immigration was telling Kenyans is completely a lie, and that's why Kenyans perceive the Kenyan government as a lying government. So things like that doesn't really paint Kenya as a good place. We had a wonderful investor in Kenya who was really running we call it Light Academy in Kenya, wonderful private schools, getting abducted from Kenya and taken to wherever, Turkey. That was really a very terrible thing. So I don't really understand why Ruto is really doing that, because nothing can really happen. Something like that can't happen without the president really knowing. So people can't just hop into Kenya, grab anybody they want, and then go out. And the president, the government didn't even release a statement. Later on, they released a statement which was completely contradictory on what they had told us earlier on. So, on your closing remarks, Professor Mong'are Munene, as we wrap it up, we've really taken more time, but that is okay. But your closing remark on what a Trump election means to Kenya, and what you really would like to tell Kenyans, either living in Kenya and the ones who are living out of the country. Thank you. Go ahead, Professor Mong'are.
Thank you very much. Been good to be in this session. As I was saying, people should keep the hope, not lose, whether in the United States or in Kenya or in other parts of Africa. The election of Trump in the United States is a routine thing. Every 4 years, the Americans go to vote for their candidates, and they vote sometimes hope and fear. Surprised that a convicted felon would be elected president, but then that's understandable because the only qualification for being a candidate is to be 35 years of age and natural born, nothing else. And Trump, whether convicted or not, he fits the bill. And by appealing to this particular phobia, he was able to mobilize enough vote to his side. As for the Kenyans, don't expect a lot of things from Trump or the other African countries. Don't expect much from Trump. If something comes, by the way, that's okay. It should be a good surprise, but don't expect too much. The challenge then is on the African side to get its act together, get the policies right, because the problems are the policy making level, not at the implementation level. And since we have problems with policy making, our leaders need some source so that they stop being what they appear to be. But it's possible to change the things and for the better. And nothing lives forever anyway. So should not lose hope. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Macharia. What about Professor Ndiangui? Go ahead, Professor Ndiangui.
Particularly from my side, I think Professor Macharia is more hopeful. But I want to add on a positive note. First of all, let me say this, a little bit negative. The report, direct impact may not be much, but I don't know whether Trump's election will empower more autocrats, more dictators out there. I do hope the ripple effect will not be that bad. But Professor Macharia talks about we don't expect much. Actually, let me put it this way. Yes, directly from Trump, you're not going to expect him to volunteer. But we must never forget that Africa is a very rich continent. Kenya is still a very powerful region. If we stood together, America will need us and they'll do what we want. So if we want something from Trump's government, we must do something to make it remain. If he says he has put tariffs on our goods coming to America, then we put even higher tariffs. We may struggle a little bit on American goods. It's a two-way process. We must make ourselves relevant as Africans and make the Trump government realize we still have the basic resources for the industries. We still have some of the most influential scholars and doctors and everyone. We still must we must make ourselves relevant. Trump is not going to make us relevant. In fact, we must make him understand, wait a minute, you cannot push us around. The thing that has happened is we have been put in our minds as if we must always be dependent. And Prof Macharia mentioned this earlier on. Our economies, if we build the internal economy to be stronger because we are not begging and borrowing more money from America, so be it. It's an advantage. If we are not dependent on America, then we're going to make our economy much better. There's also some hope in the Ruto government. Let me put it this way. Just like you mentioned, Engineer Kibwato, there are systems in place. There is a constitution in America. I love the Kenyan constitution. The Kenyan constitution is good. The Kenyan constitution protects us. That's why we are able to talk that we are talking now. There was a time in my life I would be very afraid of what I've said here. What we need to do as Kenyans is to always try to turn our leaders to say, hey, that's not what our constitution says. Hey, our constitution tells us this. We struggled for that constitution 2010. It was not easy. It is still there in place, and we will abide us, and it will make us feel equal. Yes. Lastly, I would hope that we don't see Gachagwa's impeachment and all that. Try to play games as in Mulima na Hawa. No. We are Kenyans. We are Kenyans. If we don't see ourselves as Kenyans and we all have a right to that place, whether we are Luos or Kikuyus or Kalejins or Turkanas or whatever, if we don't see ourselves as Kenyans, and let the leaders use the biggest weapon they have used to divide us up, to make us see each other as tribal groupings, then Ruto will win more. So I would like us to suppress more of that concept of Mlima hii, Mlini, this group. We are all Kenyans suffering under this man's rules. When he puts a Adani there, our airport does not segregate only the Kikuyus or Kalejins or Lu. We are all victims of the system. We must remain united. And when we are united, this bullying around that Mashari was talking about, the fear, I don't even know what's wrong with our parliament. You represent the people. Now, many of those members of parliament cannot even go to their constituencies because they have voted in a way to please this man against what their constituents want. Come on, grow up. You represent a people, and that's who you should go there. You are representative of our people. You are not elected to represent Ruto in parliament. Represent the people who elected you. They are the ones who can put you back. They're the ones who empower you. Stop creating a member of parliament as an enemy of the people. Go back to your people, apologize to them, move on, my friends, and stop begging, stop this ignorance, stop this bribery, stop this fear nonsense. This has been a very good meeting. Thank you so much, Engineer. Trump or no Trump, I'm telling you, as you can see, I wanted to last smile. Yes, we've gone through that nonsense of attacks of hate crimes, but we remain strong. We have just come from church. The God we serve is a great God, and we are so proud. We can move on with a smile and say, we will recover. We will build an economy. Something good will come out of this, like it has done. The community is coming better. If it has to use us to build an economy or build the community, so be it. And thank you so much, everybody, for the love you have shown to us. We are very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ndiangui. Thank you so much, Professor Mong'are Munene. Because of the time, we can't really exhaust everything. We'll have another discussion, and we'll expound more on how we need our country to move forward and how to encourage our immigrants, especially who are living outside of Kenya, to do. Unfortunately, the president really wants so many immigrants. I mean, not really immigrants, but he wants so many Kenyans to be out of Kenya as soon as possible, to go and work and send money back home. But there are no industries. He's not really encouraging investors to come to invest in Kenya. He's not really telling investors to come and employ Kenyans in Kenya, but he wants them out. Those are some of the things we are going to discuss next time. May God bless you. Till next time, thank you very much, Professor Ndiangui. Thank you very much, Professor Munene.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay.